It's week 2 of Ohio State's 2025 quarterback battle, and still no winner, but there does seem to be a sense of urgency from Ohio State to find that winner. At least that's the way Ryan Day talked about it on Tuesday when we talked to him. I'm Steven, that's Stefan, and that's Andrew. They play Texas week 1. That's Ryan Day's almost been harping on that since the national championship game. They've got to get things in place quickly. And that applies to the offensive line and figuring that out. That applies to everywhere else. But especially at quarterback, Stefan, it does seem like they want more clarity by the end of the week. So it's a two-part question. One, he talked about identity and finding their identity, and you can't find that without your starting quarterback. But two, I don't even know if that first one was a question, but do you think it is a realistic possibility based off what we saw the first 3 days of practice and how the quarterbacks talked on Tuesday afternoon, if they're about to go into their first scrimmage on Saturday, that Ohio State comes out of that scrimmage with a starting quarterback, whether they name him publicly or not?
Yeah, it's obviously an important week for Ohio State as you know, fall camp and preseason camp continues to roll through. Ryan Day compared this week to like moving day in golf, right? The Saturday is kind of when you figure out who's going to be in the mix on Sunday, who's actually got a chance to win this on a Sunday versus who's going to be out of it. And he kind of said this week was like moving week for Ohio State, and obviously that pertains to the quarterbacks, right? I think when he talks about finding identity, I don't think he's talking specifically about the quarterbacks finding their identity, but for your team to find its identity, like I think the question he was asked was about like short yardage and things like that, and he just started talking about identity. Like if Lincoln Kienholz is your quarterback, who's a very mobile guy and a very athletic guy, I think your identity as it comes to like 3rd and 1 is probably different than what it looks like when Julian Saint is a quarterback. So I think those two things kind of go hand in hand. The problem is when are one of these quarterbacks going to emerge and take this starting spot, right? Like you can say this is the goal this week, but if we keep hearing that Ryan Day wants someone to do something to kind of show that he's ready to be the starting quarterback, well, what if it doesn't happen this week? Then you can't say, all right, moving week's done, here's our starting quarterback, even though he didn't actually win the job yet. So that's the big thing this week of like you just need to see something from these quarterbacks. Obviously, they're going to have a scrimmage on Saturday. Like that's a big part of it, like who emerges as the best player when you go through a scrimmage. Obviously, that's different than when you go through drills or individual work or things of that nature. So it's a huge week for Ohio State. It's a huge week for these quarterbacks. Can someone step up? Can someone be part of this team's identity? If not, this quarterback battle is probably going on a little longer than Ryan Day would have hoped.
Andrew, are you confident? I mean, you've been through this before. You've heard the language of starting to take command, and then the very next time we talk to Ryan Day, it's, hey, this guy's our starting quarterback. Did we just add another step to that of, hey, I hope someone starts to take command this week, and then maybe we talk to Ryan Day again, next Monday or Tuesday? That's when. Are you confident that by next week we start to hear the language of a guy who is almost ready to name his starting quarterback?
I think that's possible. I think kind of right now, if I were to put it in baseball terms, it's kind of like we're in the hole. It's like you're in the hole, and then you go to on deck, which is like you were saying, where it's like, hey, this guy's started to separate himself, and then you have somebody finally up. So I think we're starting to maybe lay the groundwork to this. We're starting to maybe hear, okay, Ryan Day and Billy Fessler are, they want to have a plan here in the next couple of days. They want to have an answer here in the next couple of days because, really this is, going back to 2022 when they played Notre Dame, like they have not had a big time game like this. And obviously I think this Texas team is going to be a better team than that 2022 Notre Dame team was. So you said this before, Steven, basically you just want to get through Texas and then come up for air. I think you are going to have to start it, even if maybe you're not 100% confident, because you don't open the season as 50-point favorites against Akron. You don't open the season, with Indiana on the road, and this was when Indiana was not all that good. So you don't kind of have these like build-in moments to that. And the Julian Saint offense and the Lincoln Kienholz offense are not going to be exactly the same. They're going to be mostly the same, but if Lincoln Kienholz is the starting quarterback for this team for that Texas game, there's going to be a little bit more quarterback design run that you would think. People talk about Lincoln's athleticism all the time. There would be a little bit more of that in the game plan, and they're going to want to do that. We're doing this August 5th. You're probably going to want to do that starting Monday, August 18th. So that, to me, is kind of the timeline that we're on, and I think you're right. I think today was kind of the baseline. Let's start to build this out to say, in a week, we want to be able to say, this guy's separating himself, and then maybe a few days later, we say, this guy's our starting quarterback. And then you get through Texas and you see where you're at going into the Grambling game.
I'm trying to think here. what I think might happen next week. I did like the way Ryan Day talked about things this week. Sorry, Stefan, he made fun of Indiana. I think he started talking about, now that you're into this, you can start to find trends. And he was talking about taking care of the ball and those things, and you can see essentially what's a fluke versus what's something that's who they are as a quarterback, and that can be good and bad. If you're starting to track those things, and you're talking about consistency, because that's the point. It's not going to be, hey, Ryan, what's the moment you realize that Julian or Lincoln was your starting quarterback? He's going to go, it was Sunday, it was raining, and
2:42 p.m.
2:42 p.m., and it was just the way he said wide 80 that said, that's my start. That's not how this is going to work. It's going to be a consistent stacking of the days. Well, they're starting to stack them. And do you stack a big one on Saturday? Do you follow it up with something on Monday, and then you follow it up with something on Tuesday, and you get to the point where next Tuesday or Monday, I can't remember which day we talked to Ryan Day, you hear the word starting to take command, which is essentially became a, hey, if you're in the lead, you almost got this thing, just go through the finish line. Hey, if you're not in the lead, this is your last chance to put up a fight. I think we might get that coming out of the weekend, because you're seeing them, you're hearing things that suggest we're paying attention to who's starting to stack those days up, good and bad, in either one of those ways. 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99. After that, we'll continue to have this conversation on Buckeye Talk. So go listen to that wherever you find podcasts. Ohio State, 1 week in the fall camp. They're in the week 2 now, still searching for their starting quarterback. But at least it sounds like there is positive momentum in the right direction. Now, how quickly do they get to their destination to find their quarterback? I guess we'll find that out in the next couple of weeks. That's Stefan. That's Andrew. And I'm Steven. See ya.